right, it is 4 minutes past 6 o'clock, July 9th. This is a special meeting of the Common Council of the City of Oneonta. And
President.
here,
Councilmember Major Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Washington.
Here.
Councilmember McKeon.
Here.
Councilmember Parrish.
Here.
Councilmember Carson.
Here.
Councilmember Harrington. Councilmember Wooden. Councilmember Matheson.
if you join me please in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you much. And you guys had a great meeting without me. The opportunity to watch the YouTube. Greg, as I think as it was left, we were moving into kind of the, not the priorities, but we go back and forth, you and I, calling them different things.
So last meeting we spent considerable most of the time talking about strategic priorities, and, specifically the definitions of those. So we had a bunch of bullets basically that we came up with. I think the council was going to think about those between last meeting and now, and our task is to come up with definitions. So I guess the first thing we could do is talk about those. Did the council do anything with those? Come up with any sort of concepts or ideas? We did a little work on that thanks to Carrie this afternoon to kind of give you an idea. If you don't have anything to start with, we can pass these out.
I don't think that we.
Scott has volunteered, I think. To do it now.
Yeah.
Can I just quickly put a request? Can we do what we did last meeting with your notes and stuff available on the overhead?
He's in Colorado.
All right. So Carrie basically just took the notes that we had taken from the last meeting and turned them into some brief statements as to what these priorities might be. Maybe we want to make these more concise. This is a good start, something to consider.
Thank you. This is very helpful.
I see, even though they are, it is more concise, some of them are quite, especially like this first one. Yeah. Well, I guess
This is what Scott made.
No, this is what Carrie made this out.
Oh, cute, thank you.
So, is it possible to just kind of quickly go through and summarize for each one? The strategic priority number 1 was about
Possible snowball screen.
economic strength. I don't know how we characterize each one. Yeah,
Sorry, the
titles.
titles aren't here. So
Yeah.
number 1 is, maybe you want to type in there, Carrie, is financial strength and economic viability. Number 2 was safe and healthy community. Three was sustainability and natural environment. 4 was livable and well-planned development. 5 was infrastructure and asset management. 6 was community inclusiveness. 7, campus and community integration. And recruitment and retention.
first one, I feel like there are redundancies that we could probably clean up with that. Like generating sufficient revenue, maintaining, it sounds like we're kind of saying similar things repeatedly. So maybe we can tighten that up.
Should we be wordsmithing? What should we be sort of reading these documents for?
However you'd like to do it. If the council would like to take these and then with a subcommittee or individually wordsmith them and come back to the next meeting rather than wordsmithing now, do that, save some time.
I suggest
Then
yes.
we have those numbered items that go underneath them too,
Right,
right?
exactly.
So how would you like to do that?
Do we want to have a small subgroup work on just wordsmithing these? And if so, who would like to be on that? The chorus of Jones?
Do it now?
No, not now, but
Oh,
work
yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
We
Well,
don't
if we're gonna-
have a group, you're gonna have probably 4 council members that are gonna be engaged in what we do. Hopefully all meet, but let us, we can do this, get this, we can do this.
So we'll just work in a group email back and forth and break it down that way. And everybody chime in as they feel like they should. Or want to. Sound like a plan? Okay. Second.
So I just had a quick question in terms of moving forward with this project. If we go back to the original conversation we had about the strategic plan, I think it was in spring. The discussion was very much centered around an example that we had and the list of sort of much more general principles. So I'm just curious for tonight if we are going to be talking about those general principles or moving to more strategic priorities that I think were the bullet points where we left off.
Was your sense of it that we were actually moving to those bullet points?
Yeah, so we started that last time. I think we started on number 2, safety, health, and community, with some conversation about what the key strategies would be within that strategic priority. So Carrie's got the notes from. And our goal is to come up with 3 or 4 key strategies per strategic priority. So if we have a number of them, 8 that are listed there, 8 ideas anyway, so if we can consolidate those.
Do we have one of these 8 one that would be prioritized in people's eyes?
I would say strategic priority number 1 because it involves financial, I don't want to say financial planning, but like our outlook on how we would like to handle finances, and we feel like that roughly the budget in a very specific way. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We're
we're
talking
on-
about these
we're on
specific key strategies.
safe and
I'm sorry. I
healthy
thought we were identifying which one we were going to work on first. My bad.
So the strategic priority number 2 is safe and healthy community. We've got those 8 key strategies, and we want to see if we can pare it down to 3 or 4 or 5.
I know we talked about this last time about how, some of these overlap with other ones, and now I'm just like thinking some of them maybe we can move to another area, like the connectivity to park services, that might be more part of this livable, well-planned development.
Same with thoughtful development.
Yeah.
And
And
I
then,
think clean water is more of an infrastructure thing, even though it does contribute to a safe and healthy community, it's kind of, it fits also underneath the
And you could see where community paramedicine program might slide to into identifying systems of care and programming for residents.
Right. And I think that really the key idea here is, and of those listed, not to say that that's the key idea of saving the community, is like bolstering and facilitating services that are available. Because like that would involve like identifying systems of care and making them more easily utilized. Yeah. Community paramedicine would be an example of something that we could work toward under that umbrella. Same with proactive and ongoing engagement. It's like basically promotion of those services. So, but that being said, I don't think that's the only like facet of safe and healthy community. So, I would say, just as I'm a member of the community wellness committee and the legislative committee, something that I am working on is, and I think it's within the purview of the council, is to identify ways that we can influence a healthier community through legislation. So, for example, the tobacco-free communities legislation that the wellness committee is going to work on. Public safety. Oh, so with that too, like we were talking about moving. I'm just trying to think broad strokes of like things that we've talked about wanting to do. So like better, safer spaces through environmental design, which may be livable and well built, but it also, I think it really has a fine point in safety.
I gotta say, I feel like the community paramedicine program, I'm not sure that it's a key strategy on its own. I think that's more of like an option. It's an idea, it's something that we've talked about, but I also think that's under the community wellness, it's on the agenda. That's something that we're talking about there. So.
I think that would end up as like an action.
Yeah,
okay.
Because we start off with the headers and then those key strategies, right? Is that what it's called below that or something? And then the actionable items, right?
I had a question about public safety outreach, et cetera. What would that, et cetera, what would we refer to? Also, public safety outreach meaning.
I think the chief was talking about having educational sessions for the schools and for fire protection.
Yeah.
They were talking about educating the public on different fire drills. The chief just
Maybe that's an actionable item as well.
Yeah, I think it would be.
So I have this in a couple of bullets in my brain. So I have bolster, support, and facilitate services available to residents. And then again, those things in the parentheses kind of feel like maybe examples, right? But then I have identify existing systems of care and programming for residents and promote them. But then also proactive and ongoing engagement, an example would be the public safety outreach. And then developing additional services to fill gaps, which a community paramedicine would be an example of.
I'm also looking at this number 4 that we came up with. I think access to opportunities is great, but I'm not sure that we fully developed that. I in transportation, rideshare. I remember we did talk about that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that's a key strategy.
Yeah. So I feel like that would be like the developing additional services.
Yeah, I feel that's, I feel
Transportation.
like that's the thing.
Yep.
Now that we're looking at it, 2 weeks later, I'm like, we got a little specific.
Yeah, totally.
What did we decide with provide clean water and sanitary sewer systems?
That was
It got moved to, oh, it got moved to infrastructure.
I would also put it under sustainability.
That's true.
I mean, that's water is foundation. Both. Can you just double up?
Probably be going at some different angles for those things, right? There's the access to it, and then there's also protecting
The actual, right?
And, you know, it's 100 degrees out there today, or at least it feels like, and I wonder about hydration, just generally speaking, is something that's part of a necessary community wellness component. If you say that it got moved to infrastructure, that does as well. Mhm.
about our priorities, the strategies.
I would consider putting something in there, emergency management wise, as far as reducing risk to the community,
Ooh, yeah, risk, yeah.
maybe risk reduction.
Put that right up at the one, forces for.
I think it's like at that level, like that's one thing, and community risk reduction is another.
I would agree. And in that, there's a number of actionable items.
Yeah, what are actionable, what are we calling these actionable items, but they're not the action items, they're broad strategy, but I thought the specific actions.
So these are key strategies. And then within each key strategy, there may be 6 or 7 action items, such as update the comprehensive emergency plan.
So all we needed was community risk reduction? And then we're good,
At this level,
thank you.
So are we pretty well exhausted that with those 5 key strategies? So moving on to sustainability.
I feel like there's more there, like it's really, they're all obviously very important, but that's really, I think when you think about quality of life, like in places that you want to live and move, like being a safe and healthy community is like, it's one of the most important things I think that you think about, so I just would, I want to continue to think about that one, I guess.
I think one of the things that we're going to be faced with more and more is reacting to these extreme weather events. So I think would this be the right spot that you put something about, planning ahead for those?
I think that was it, sustainability and natural environment. We talked about emergency.
Yes. Oh.
Planning for emergency.
Community risk reduction would do that as well. It would, basically, we would prioritize.
You're going through all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we would address the most severe and we would work on that list and what was that one?
Because I guess I'm thinking of like personal risk. So what would risk reduction cover?
So it would be like, we got this risk plan, and what we would do is
we prioritize all the risks to our community. So flooding would be up towards the top of the list, where, knock on wood, a tornado, we haven't ever had one in the city of Lebanon. So that would be lower on the list. So now every possible hazard to us in the city, we would prioritize the frequency that it could happen and the potential impact, and then we would have a plan for each one of those.
I'll just mention that the vulnerability assessment that was completed this past spring gives a detailed account of what Oneonta faces in terms of climate. So it's actually a really nice assessment for those that are interested in learning more about it. It's a great discussion. So another idea, I guess, I think that in terms of vulnerabilities, risky vulnerabilities.
Would the conservation of natural resources be one of our key strategies there as well? Number 3. Yeah.
Great, are we on 3 now, or are we still looking on 2? I was just saying I think we should continue to think about 2, but not that we should stay on it. Sorry for muddying that water. Okay, so conservation of natural resources, the climate smart communities work, right? It's a strategy that kind of advances this strategic priority.
I think you have to think about it. It's what we came up with last meeting was a broader list of initiatives in terms of, the Climate Smart Communities program is meant to incentivize, various strategies that cities can use. But I think the conversation here, I think that's more actionable item. And we've completed it. So we could say maybe something like, I don't know. But we've already done that. So we just got certifications from the state. And so I think what we came up with from our last discussion was a really nice description about what we value in terms of the natural environment. And I think, I'll just say to draw your point, Katie, about safe and healthy communities being a priority, I think you could easily argue that safe and healthy communities very much dependent upon having a sustainable environment. So that there's a synthesis there between the two. And I think you could draw sustainability in each of these priorities. So in other words, I think there's a continual thread between safe and healthy communities, sustainability, and everything else.
Relative to the second key strategy of conservation of natural resources, would you say that having a proactive strategy to ensure that we are ahead of the game so that we are conserving even as we are looking at some less certain months and years ahead of us around water, around everything really. So having something that is proactive, I don't know if that's an actionable item or if that's a header or if that's.
Was it at this last meeting where we talked about, even getting into, encouraging residents to conserve water, working on that more, that.
I think to go back to Chief's point about emergency management, it seems like that's foundational to this discussion as well, that we have to plan in terms of risk and mitigating that risk, especially for the vulnerable populations of Oneonta, and really specifically for the city. So I think I always argue that there should be something about justice here, that we want to make sure that those that are most vulnerable are taken care of with the isn't really forthcoming anymore with the current kind of climate changes.
I think that makes sense, because it is true whenever there are emergencies, those who are most vulnerable, most at risk, and needing the most support
prioritization of environmental justice.
I think we have that actually in the description as well. Support equity and justice. And I think drawing on the safe and healthy communities, discussion, it's really about the well-being, health and well-being of residents too. But when you're talking about preserving, making sure that we're creating a sustainable infrastructure. So,
Well, I was gonna say, one of the things that I would like to see, like, just in my time in parks, this is something that I've talked about, is like a community education piece, to help us, I think, better appreciate the land that we're on, like the more that we know about it, the native species, things like that, just to create an appreciation, foster an appreciation for our natural environment within our community. And so a very specific thing, and I just tried to extrapolate to be broader from that, is I would love to, like, our parks are very recreation focused, and they're amazing, very excellent for that. But one thing that I've wanted to try to do, and actually I did have a contact in my visit, so I never do that, those kind of things, but is add like some nature education for kids, like along the trails and things, similar to how down the Damascus Field, like on the mill race, there's that little sign. I think if we had some things like that, like, the eastern bluebird is our state bird, like how many can you find on the walk, like that kind of thing. So anyway, so that's like a very specific thing, but I think that the more that we draw our community's attention to our natural resources, the more appreciation we can foster, and the more community involvement there is in conservation. So, like, similar to how the kids in the conservation club, we named Lazy Leopard Frog Creek, which might not actually be the final name. They added frog, right? Lazy Leopard Frog Creek. So yeah, so things like that.
Anything more to add to this?
I think I would just add a description about what environmental justice refers to, that you're talking about equity.
Yeah, because I think that pinpoints then or directs more acutely the action items, right? Like, we need to create systems that serve our most vulnerable
I think that should be included as well. That prioritizes, vulnerable residents in particular.
Should we move on to strategic priority number 4, or do we have anything more for this? Back to 1.
Well, I think we had finished that.
No, we'll skip that.
Oh.
Right there, we started.
That's right. I thought we had done one
I
last
think
time.
we spent so much time on the description.
Oh, we didn't get to the piece.
Yeah, the suggestion was to try to start somewhere else, but we still didn't finish it.
We've got 3 of them under our belts. So.
Can I ask what snowballs mean?
Snowballs?
It says avoid snowballs. I don't know what it means.
It's really somebody talking about it, things building up. Is that what it was? I don't know.
It was a word that was used, because I put it in quotes.
Yeah.
I think looking at this, that's
I
the kind of language that
Don
I would.
said it.
Don said that.
He's not here to
He did.
explain.
Oh,
He did
okay.
say it. And it, yeah.
think that's the kind of thing that we could probably clear up, because we can say that by saying we want to, plan and have strong financial plans.
I think eventually it's gonna come out of the definition, because it's where the actual, as you said, things work. I'm sure that didn't help you out.
I will volunteer to write a narrative on the financial section to send it out to you guys and you can edit accordingly if you would like. Because there is differences between reserves and raising revenues, different things like that. So if you'd like me to, I'll volunteer to do that.
Well, this is all one of the department heads after we do it anyway, for their funding, right? Isn't that what you said, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking that in parallel, the council and department heads will kind of review these wordsmith away and come back next time, figure out what works best.
There was a reason why we started this one.
I think this was why, 'cause I'll throw the first one. A balanced budget based on revenue received and or conservative projections. Number two should be recognizing what it really costs to provide the level of services that we provide. I think last night's exercise in the legislative committee, thanks to the city staff providing us with a spreadsheet, was a very good exercise for us to find out how much it really costs just to rent a large pavilion or a small pavilion. So imagine what it would take to go and dive down into DPS, police, fire, administrative. If we take the time to truly understand that, we'll be able to work on the budget with a better understanding.
How much can we rely on what we developed before? We can borrow from those, right? Those comments, what you have already been. Yeah. There are key strategies.
In this one,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is this the place where it would be appropriate to say, like, that we're going to utilize, the assessments and tools that have already, been done, in planning? I'm sure there's a better way to say that.
Well, we have written already, we continuously evaluate our practices, identify what works well and what needs to be evaluated, using clear metrics to gauge success and report our financial strength, which is a very long-winded description, but it's probably what dovetails with your point.
Save a little bit of time.
Right.
That's.
And always be evaluating, right?
I've been thinking to this sentence here about building organizational capacity for strategic grant development, hiring, investments, like is that more of a strategy?
Yeah, that is. I think those are actionable items, actually. More development for strong personality, those are.
Oh, the individual.
Yeah,
I think
but I think that financial capacity is more useful.
I think a lot of that definition is more how to carry things out. That's the first one we did, so that's probably
We're a little.
We
a little wordy on it.
Mhm.
Creating opportunities for community to reinvest.
that will also help, slim down this description.
Feeling good about that? Okay, so let's move that down. The building well-planned development.
I wonder if this could be subsumed under infrastructure. Yeah.
That feels like maintenance, whereas this feels like design to me.
Development.
Yeah, I think of infrastructure, as I mentioned, more as city infrastructure, city assets, which livable world plan development might include more private zoning, planning, that sort of.
But you could kind of see how they're,
Yeah.
We talked a lot about
I think the idea of a walkable. Is that too much of an action?
I'm also thinking, when we talk about connectivity and a walkable community, I think we're talking about more than just the park.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about connectivity and a walkable
Yeah.
community, you really,
Throughout.
that's really your key strategy there. And then other things that start to fall in as actionable items.
The idea of complete streets fall in this category. Run sidewalks on the street.
Yeah, I think that fits in with that connectivity, walkable community, maybe community bike riding, right? Those happens in wellness.
There's also there's an aesthetics piece of this as well, that complete streets addresses. And I'm looking at connectivity services and walkable community, but we're not, and I don't believe that within that there's an inference that we're looking at, the general aesthetics of that which we're creating in the city.
And actually, connectivity, I don't even just mean to services, I just mean like the community in general. It's easy for people to get to where they want to go.
Yeah, I think an action within this might be, we already have a complete streets policy, it might be developing a complete streets plan. Right, prioritizes projects, and another action might be implementing one of those projects.
Like, for instance, I just saw, on Facebook yesterday that Delphi, I think, part of their complete streets program, they're closing down their streets and they're calling it play streets or something, and they're just opening it up for play. A couple days throughout the summer, here and there. So I saw that and I was like, that's an idea that, it's very similar to the Renaissance idea,
We're
right? To shut it down.
We talked about it today, we're stealing it.
Oh, okay. So I thought that was impressive though, as far as an idea. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Last year we had that block parade in 6th Ward.
Yeah. A lot specifically about public transportation last time, so I'm just wondering if we want to include something. I mean, we do have transportation code that's being built too, so we want to have something that more focuses towards it. Yeah, because we talked about expanding opportunities, and we talked a lot about the ride share things and rail services and all kinds of stuff.
So would the word just expanding the possibilities for transportation?
Yeah, but, and that might even just take part of this description, how to make it a key strategy, really, about expanding public transportation options.
Because you said you were going to bring a train here. That's what I heard.
I heard
Right.
that.
That's what I heard.
We're not trying to get it. I heard that one.
I'm teasing.
So part of
Part of the strategy, I think, reading the bullets you have and the words you put up there, like, we've been aggressively updating the zoning ordinance, because like a lot of the stuff that you can do it through the Complete Street program, like, for example, when we redid the downtown zoning code, new construction is required to include like bicycle parking. New construction has all kinds of requirements about like accessibility to sidewalks, street tree planting requirements. So not only is this about like, transportation, it's also about how you design construction or development or even maintenance projects to result in like a high quality built environment that people want to live in. So if you make a place that's like really gross or really not attractive or really not walkable, people don't want to live there. You see that all over. That's why people don't live on South Side, they drive to Hannaford. So like one of our goals within our department, based on comprehensive planning goals, has been updating all of our zoning codes to be form-based codes that are reflective of kind of the concepts in that strategic plan thing. So it extends just beyond like connecting the dots. It's about like, oh, if you build a building, like how does it go on the sidewalk? How does what type of trees are planted in that building? What type of material is used in that building? How does that building interface with like, the public? So like part of your key strategy, I think, I'm just throwing it out there, is continuing to update our zoning ordinance to actually reflect what modern zoning is doing versus kind of the old way of doing zoning, which was like kind of just putting all the houses here and all the jobs here and being like, okay, then just drive back and forth. Because what the building code and like what construction codes allow is very minimal. And it results in a place that is very minimal field. So part of this strategy should be incorporating complete streets into our zoning code. So that when we design streets and we design buildings, we're designing them to click together and not just have a really great bike network and know where to put your bikes when you get there. Or having a really great bus stop that gets you nowhere.
Would you think that similar to what we have done in the Safe and Healthy Communities piece, where we looked at an actionable item that we talked about public safety outreach, but educating the community as to what the strategies are around zoning, I think is kind of a key piece that's missing right now. That's
This has a question from somebody who says, because I'm confused. So what you just described, isn't that about getting jobs, businesses, and stuff together versus the old way? Isn't that going to conflict with the new historical districts things that just got passed and we're doing because they don't want certain things in the districts? So they're going to be able to say, no, you're not going to do this?
Nope.
Okay.
So we currently in our zoning code already have a material standard list that was already in existence prior to that form. The form-based code incorporates those material requirements that are part of the historic district. The historic district and the historic commission has nothing to do with zoning. They don't regulate use, they don't regulate anything that's regulated under zoning. They regulate exterior physical changes to buildings. Just like our zoning code does, and once, assuming that those local districts are made, all that would happen is the zoning section will be removed because you cannot have two boards reviewing the same project. So right now in our downtown, in our zoning code, it already says we have an entire chapter on historic preservation that is administered through the zoning ordinance. Assuming that these local districts are made, that section of the zoning code just gets pulled out. You have two boards reviewing doing the same review. The The landmark commission reviews exterior changes instead of the plan. It's a site plan review process that already exists. So short enough, because zoning oversees use, historic review board does not have anything to do with zoning. They're two separate, never shall they meet, never shall they cross. Yes. Yeah,
So we've got a rather lengthy fourth key strategy there.
you could make your fourth key strategy incorporate best planning and zoning practices. Something about peace of mind.
So, speak to zoning, declare building practices also.
So construction, with the minimal construction code is mandated through the state. So best practices when it comes to construction are always like, if you imagine it on a test, a D minus is best practices in construction, because all you have to do is basically meet the minimum standards of construction. So our zoning code enforces a higher standard of construction than what the minimum in the state. And the idea behind that is that we are encouraging people to essentially invest in their properties in a way that exceeds the state minimum. Because, for example, like a modern building with spray foam insulation and a toilet in it can meet the minimum construction standards in New York State. But it doesn't result in a place that you're like, oh wow, that looks really great, I want to live there. So zoning is basically a way to kind of encourage construction that would be of a higher standard than what the state would issue a CO on. Because you can get a CO on anything. You can build really, really, really low-end stuff and you can get a CO because construction is just fire safety. It has nothing to do with whether it looks good, whether it's a place you want to live, whether it's you can really build some really nasty stuff and get a CO. So zoning is essentially a way for us to kind of broadcast that what we're looking for is something that's better than the D minus.
Right, so I guess I'm gonna have my example with like LEED certification.
Yep. So those would be like, that's a best practice. So like Los Andes is a LEED certified building.
So is that controlled through zoning? Because I was going along with your example, best planning, best zoning practices, and I was just thinking best building practices.
Yeah, I mean, so we have a thing in our downtown code, if you want to exceed the height limitations, if you build a LEED, we give you extra stories. So if you do a LEED certified building, you want to build one story up above the minimum or above the maximum height, if you do LEED, you can do it. So it's basically like, if you incorporate what we think are best building practices, you can add additional height to your building, you otherwise would not be allowed to do it. Sometimes they use incentives like that to build affordable housing units. Like they'll say, like, if you make X number of units affordable, then you can build above the height restriction. You can build outside the maximum square footage or impervious coverage requirements. So yeah, a lot of zoning codes will incentivize that type of construction practice as like a carrot, sort of, carrot to get you to do stuff that we want.
So you probably could include best building practices because, those examples that you just gave, and then you did stronger floor systems and roof systems.
Yeah, you can utilize. What becomes tricky is the state will not. I mean, you can adopt a more restrictive building code. So some communities have opted to adopt much more stringent energy codes. There's what's called stretch code. So other municipalities have done that with see. When it comes to actual construction, you have to basically tell the state why you're doing it. So like if you were like, we want to make, we don't want to permit anything that doesn't meet a higher level of construction as far as like the actual building code. The state would have to review and approve that. But what we can do in zoning is you can incentivize or you can require usually like exterior, like building, like siding and cladding material. It's hard in zoning to say like, oh, you need to build like a higher wind speed resistance, or because the zoning code has to also justify why you're doing it. So the structure of zoning is you have to have a reason that you're making this law. So if you look at our zoning code, like the purpose of this law is we have found that there are a significant number of short-term rental properties, and you can, there's an X, short-term rental properties, too many tattoo parlors, whatever. And then your law has to address that finding. So you have to be able to show that whatever your zoning code regulates, that it's directly connected to an actual thing. So we would have to be like, here in Oneonta, we have exceptionally high wind speeds, and we need to require like a higher wind speed, snow load, whatever, fill in the one. So yeah, so in short, like you can incentivize certain types of construction, like by utilizing the zoning code and allowing for an exchange. But when it comes to state law, like state law is always going to preempt anything we're doing. And the state regards the building code pretty close. Pretty close.
This is a non sequitur, although related. I'm just wondering if we could, if there's any way that the city could sponsor a public lecture that Steve would provide. Or Steve would be the obvious choice, but to have a public lecture for the community on zoning 101, just to have us all be informed about these details, it's actually quite important and fascinating to let people know. And a lot of it's just want to put that out.
No, I think that's great. Yes.
Doing that recording.
That's what I was just going to say.
There's no,
Because those public education kind of things, if you do it once and then it can be recorded,
Right.
it can just be saved and, propagated from there. So.
You can volunteer.
You can have like a whole series on the webpage.
Yes. City one.
Here about codes.
yes.
That's really great.
I mean, there's definitely, certain folks who will pop it, not in text, so.
Yeah.
To get through to, a certain segment of the population.
That's good. That's good. Anything else that we want to be adding to our living well planned development for? No? We'll move on to what? Infrastructure and asset management. This would be my thing, but be proactive rather than reactive. Yeah.
Don't have into like financial stuff here.
Didn't they have the definition that you wrote? We were using?
Oh.
When we talked about this, my notes were, I just copied it as far as their definition.
Yeah, I think that one was pretty straightforward.
Not necessarily the key strategies though, but
Yeah,
their
that,
definition
yeah,
said
perfect.
provide safe, efficient, sustainable, cost-effective, and well-maintained infrastructure and transportation systems. Build, maintain, and manage capital assets, preserve long-term investment, and ensure reliable service. So that might replace the 3 paragraphs, but if you just think about what Lynn was saying about proactive versus reactive, is there a way to kind of better define that as like long-term planning? Should we have a capital improvement plan, 5-year plan, various plans that I think you could say are proactive, but I'm just trying to think, as you were saying, something about what actions might go into those. I'm not sure what that would be.
Under infrastructure, sidewalks, streets. water, sewer lines, stormwater, things that we're always reactive to them because we don't have funding revenue to put it to the side to create a proactive list of saying, okay, we have parks that are 110 years old, let's start prioritizing sections of the city. And put it down to saying these are our most troublesome areas that we have and moving from there.
If you're looking at it, it's basically assessments of where we are infrastructure-wise throughout the city, and then you're looking at trend lines that include age and other things like that would then give us an indication as to what we might want to do proactively to be addressing things before they wind up breaking down.
Can I jump in for a second? Being proactive is one of the reasons why Greg and I developed the water and sewer rate structure that we introduced to council a few years back. Because we're trying to build up our reserves, so we've got the money to work with to replace the water and sewer lines on a more regular basis.
It's quite more of an action. I look at it as a rotation plan, or, you gotta have plans in the fire department has their SCDs that come over every single year. Fire truck that just ground around with, $2 million to get a fire truck. We got vehicles that we gotta try to rotate. Then we have to have something like that long term, how we're gonna rotate things. Like if we took a police car out of service, could we use it in another department before we put it in the garage and stuff like that to, I think we're kind of, till we get back on more level shelf.
So you're identifying the life cycles of various bits of large and small equipment and maybe determining with that a repurposing of it to get us to a different place with something else that, as we're assessing all of these things, we might find that there's a priority that direct us to replacing that thing as opposed to this thing. Over knowing that it's got a life cycle that we're aware of, that we've done an assessment of what the situation is and what we can do in terms of utilizing the infrastructure that we have.
Develop and implement long-term infrastructure and asset management plans. So we have pieces of that. As you said, they're not all funded to the level that we'd like them to be. We do have a capital improvement plan. We do have an equipment replacement plan in place. Building those out.
And then we gotta find a way to build them out, find a way to sustain them so that it's fundable, not just, okay, here it is, but figure out how to fund it. We do good at this stuff, laying stuff out. We don't do good at trying to figure out how we're going to fund things in the long term. We kind of, get our backs up and start to stop with what we can, because we got this, and I think if we can find a way to look long term and how we're going to do this, like, I'm just use the fire truck as an example. That was 20 years, and we still haven't ordered it yet. We're still waiting for the grant or whatever process that we're doing. But we know it's like 4 years before we get that. We know we got 2 other trucks that we got to replace, so we're starting to have some problems. I think we got to really look hard at how we're going to do this.
I don't know if it came from the Tonka, but there's a list here that says on the second page, this involves regular inspections, timely repairs, and strategic upgrades, which seems to sum up really
The strategic piece, because it sounds like we're also talking about like prioritizing, right? Like what are, it's not just about identifying, but also prioritizing, what needs to be done first.
Right.
based on evolving needs and technological advancements.
Right. And that clause there, evolving needs and technological advancements, that's a key piece, because what we are looking at in 2024 is not necessarily going to be germane in 2030. Okay.
Just to add to that, please know that CSAP already does recycling of vehicles and equipment. When we go to surplus a piece of equipment, we may transfer it as a long-term car, we may transfer it to the airport, we may transfer it to our parking ticket enforcement officer. So quite often we're already doing that. What it comes down to, we did an analysis of how much money we need to invest in our equipment and vehicles. And our goal is to invest $1 million a year. But we just don't have the funding to do that yet. So, another way to be proactive on that is, when we bring suggestions to you about revenue raising, including going over the tax cap, that is being proactive, because we're moving forward in how we are raising monies for the future. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So, but we're not doing it to the extent that I think that we need to, but we are trying to recycle as much as we can, and also to utilize the piece of equipment for as long as we can, because we just don't have the funding to replace it. The reason why the fire trucks got delayed year after year after year is just because of the cost. The last fire truck that we got, and this is something that council can advocate for us, is that we got $750,000 from the state to go towards the purchase of that fire truck. Right now, we're trying to get the USDA grant, but if council can go to the legislators and say, hey, can you put this in for an idea or a request, that could really help us. We ended up getting $250,000 allotment through the state for the last year.
When I'm saying that, I'm not saying city staff is.
No, I understand
What
what
I'm
I'm
saying
saying.
is, we as a council have to figure this out and try to stick with it. Because I've seen from growing up here, every time you switch a council, this always changes.
No, I understand.
I'm more trying to say we need to get on this path and have the reasons why we're on this path. So in 3 years, when some of us aren't up here anymore, the next one's coming to see what we already battled before they already had it. This is why we're pushing this way, because we want to get back into where we're at now. That's what I'm trying.
So we have 3 strategies, what Minnetonka said they made a bit more.
That was for the definition.
Yeah.
So what do we think?
Scott, I'm thinking about what you said, and I'm wondering what we could do with the council, to leave behind some kind of trail, right, for that next, some kind of preparation and planning that would be very concrete and clear for, the next council that comes in. So that they, to reduce that, breakage that happens there, that inconsistency.
I think it's a number 2, implement a fundable and sustainable long-term plan.
Yeah, I agree, actually, I think you're right, because it is about that long-term planning.
It's actually about putting funds towards those assets and infrastructure.
Is there anything that we might be able to do that we're not doing as a city around identification of redundancies, maybe across departments and other ways that we might be able to minimize some of the the infrastructure itself in terms of equipment and so forth?
There's redundancies all over.
Mhm.
We have some departments, the county has departments.
Right. So I just
I think
wondered.
we just need to reach out. I think maybe that's one of the things we can do between the city and the town. The county is really sit down and look and see what do we do as redundant to what they have.
Right. How can we kind of tighten up either department to department or city to town and county some of the infrastructure that we're deploying, we're utilizing.
100% agree with that.
So partnering with our neighboring municipalities for research.
At the very least, having conversations, exploring.
If I could just make the suggestion and give feedback. For number 2, I wonder if you could take out, separate, assess current infrastructure and assets. I think assess specifically around maintenance, and viability perhaps, and then have number 3 be implement.
Fundable and
Glasses,
sustainable long-term.
Yeah, fundamental and sustainable long, yeah, so that they could be 2 separate.
And that would be for replacement and for just a long-term plan called done.
Assess for, I said maintenance, but it could be,
I'm
related to
looking at the
maintenance.
3 there. Let's be separated. We're all struggling.
They go much bigger than it's gonna wrap, so.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Sometimes I can read better without my glasses. I don't know.
You know, I think you were better.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Better.
That's better.
Yeah. So among those key strategies, do we want to put in there the idea of exploring, you know,
I didn't know
other,
that would be an action.
yeah. You think it's an action?
I didn't know.
I get it.
So the water and sanitary sewer is obviously quite important, but it seems pretty specific. So I wonder if we could broaden that out and just say like, provide, how do I want to say this, like quality products and services. No, to the community. Do you know what I mean? Because we sell water, so it's like a product that we have. So that's where I'm coming from. Like we when we had our tour, they were saying we put like fluoride in the water, but we don't really need to. But you know, clarity or I don't know actually know a lot about water purification, but I think clarity is a thing, and that's really important, right? And salinity. So just I'm trying to say like allow somehow the departments to, with regard to infrastructure, to determine what is necessary to providing quality products and like strike a balance. You can say that, however. Do you understand my idea? No?
So
Okay.
essentially providing quality services,
Right.
which may be producing water as a service.
Right. I just feel like, yeah, that's a specific service that we offer, but we have others that would fall under this umbrella, so to call that one out maybe is just too fine a point. Like, is there a bigger idea there? Which is that we want whatever we do or provide to be as good as possible.
As good as possible.
You can say that. Well,
We might have to come back to it.
Yeah.
Remember, what ultimately we're looking to prioritize, so if we say something is as good as possible, and that's at the expense of something.
Right.
That's just like an initial thought.
Right.
I think the reason why Rollins does this two separately is because they are a major expenditure for infrastructure throughout the state. Because we've got miles of pipes of both services. And we also have the water plants and the wastewater plant. So all of that is infrastructure that the city has to maintain and provide.
Of course.
So I think that's why that is specifically from the last conversation, why water and sewer is targeted in this particular area.
Well, I think we just moved it there from saving healthy communities because water and sewer is an infrastructure thing. Yeah.
But it's also fire and safety, security, but also providing water and sewer services. So those are key components that, you know, they built a city to do that. You know, these are basics. So,
Sidewalks.
But there's also financial infrastructure.
yes.
Which is really our grant and planning programs. So I don't know if you want to list that as a key strategy of researching financial support for the grants.
I'm gonna go above number one because it's the financial, I'm glad you brought that up, so I wouldn't think of financial as the infrastructure.
Yeah, it's another, it's just another tentacle, you know.
Do you want to go next one? So we're looking at adding another key strategy to our first.
It's about the grants, which I think is spoken to in this description somewhere. It says something about, oh yeah, good.
Financial capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Probably combine. That's really
Oh,
what
yeah,
we're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about,
yeah.
grants,
It
and we said, oh, wait,
does,
that's
yes.
too specific, let's take that out.
Sure, it does.
So it would be financial
You'd
infrastructure.
be talking about selling water, or you'd be talking about providing some other service.
I mean, this is just again how all these things overlap, like, even when we were talking about complete streets and trees, I'm thinking about the environment, you know?
No, that's a good call. All right, so let's slide back to 5, 6, I guess. Anything else for 5?
Just really quickly to clarify, it's provide quality public services and then move forward for shared public services. Just to
Mm-hmm.
I think we kind of gets really more at what we were talking about with services.
Would quality equate to regulatory requirements, like the DEC standard that we need to discharge wastewater to the Susquehanna, or the
I was gonna say, can we go for best practices again?
I think Steve hit
Sorry.
it on the head, that's
Yeah.
practices.
That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah, I
See,
think,
Steve, I was listening to you.
Oh, we're gonna bet on them now.
We're betting.
Bet.
It's been a long day, the fingers are tired.
We're getting there.
I wouldn't want to be you right now.
I know, that's a lot of pressure, I appreciate it, Jerry.
I just want to say maintenance is like the toughest word to get.
Did you see me struggling with that earlier?
Yeah, when it came out, I was like, oh, good, yeah, you gotta click on this.
Yeah. It was close enough.
Hey, that's why they obviously get
So moving on to number
I just want to
6. Number 6 is
When I say it's a hard word, I mean it.
community inclusiveness.
I think we had a list. This is the list we should use. Accessibility, affordability, equity, fairness across all initiatives seems like a good starting point. Key strategy.
I know there was a lot of conversation. Bryce was certainly very involved in it. The community inclusiveness and the colleges and how that half of the city's citizenship needs to be more realized for the capacity that they have to change the dynamic of the city.
And that's in campus community integration, which really could fall under community inclusiveness, but to me is so important that I would really like it to be its own.
Okay.
Like, because the campuses are such a big part of our community, that should be its own strategy in terms of it's something that makes us unique. But you know,
Yeah, point taken.
That's why originally, that's why I brought it up. You don't see it as itself because it is that literally 45% of the population.
Just drawing on what we have in front of us today, inclusiveness is the values of kindness and equitable engagement, communication, transparency.
And we've talked a couple of times about outreach to the community that's really proactive, fire department, police department, and others around so many of the things, around things that folks may be confused about or not even have an opinion about, where we would do well by educating them. What else are we going to bring to this?
Like I was starting to get that piece where we talked about accessibility, like when things are accessible, to, it makes it easier for everybody, and, the idea of aging in place and things like that. But I think that it's already covered with what we said about accessibility across all services.
Should we have a policy? Should we have a policy of engagement with just thinking about this? We have a diverse community. We were talking about this a little bit earlier today, some folks and I. We have a very diverse community that has pockets in it of a lot of different nationalities now as well, that are kind of their own little communities that some of us, are not even frankly all that aware of. And if we had kind of an overt policy of engagement to try to bring them, into the community, kind of again being proactive rather than here you are, we've just discovered you, but rather some level of institutional outreach.
I think, but just if I could just jump in, one of the things that I've heard when we were at that program from some of the students there was, why don't we celebrate, my holidays, my heritage. So I was just gonna say, like, maybe we could celebrate diversity, but like have celebration as an actionable item. So seek out and amplify the diversity in our community and celebrate it. Because that was one thing that really stuck with me was like, yeah, we should do stuff like that to make, people who are, to Len's point, they make up our community, but they feel like they're just visiting here. So things like that can make it feel more like home.
Yeah. So. Kind of proactively identify opportunities, where none may be, obvious.
For diversity.
Yeah, for to bring people into the city, just as people who are here, but to make them feel that they are part of the city.
I think things like that would also go along with this breaking down stigma. I think, when we recognize and celebrate diversity, that's one way of breaking down stigma.
I would say a bit more on 3. I don't know if you're in the process of writing it or not, but increased diversity and inclusion. One of the points here that I think is really important in terms of difference of thought and difference of perspective is really important.
Before I forget, can we change kind in number 2 to thoughtfully informed and equitable engagement, communication, transparency versus kind?
So we're going to increase our diversity, or are we going to recognize
Celebrate.
Celebrate.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool.
Anything else?
I'm going to just put in that I do think in terms of engagement, thoughtfully informed is different than kind. And I think there has to be, maybe respect is a better word. But I think there needs to be something about the fact that we respect difference of opinion, different ideas, different ways of understanding the world. That's a community value.
Any additional key strategies here? Or shall we move on? Okay. So our strategic priority number 7 is campus and community integration.
This is when we looked at, yeah, thank you, SUNY, strategic plan. They had some related things that we wanted to make sure that we were in line with, right?
Within the SUNY plan is employment part of that.
SUNY has a strategic plan that they developed this past spring after extensive meetings and discussions. And there's a component for community integration. They speak specifically in the plan about how to work with the city, how to work with the broader community. So we drew from that.
And some of that includes employment with area employers.
Well, I mean, that would be an action item.
Yeah.
Their kind of more broader concerns you can see listed here in terms of what their approach to the community should be. And they hope to be.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I remember Bryce and I both speaking about is that, like coming here as college students, right, making those connections in the community that are going to entice people to stay, I know, from personal experience, getting a job in the area, getting connected with a church in the area and social groups and things like that can really influence people staying here long term.
That's exactly what they're saying on the campus right now is new job. It's the first words out of their mouth I've ever seen. We used to have through, let's see what now, a job for workforce development. That succeeded in
CEO program?
Is it the SBDC?
absolutely not.
Oh, okay, sorry. I misunderstood.
So they were creating their own workforce development.
Okay.
And CEO was literally down 5 floors around the corner. And then they talked about going into the county building and building out space to do something there. But that's what the college kids say. Every time we meet at the Harvard College campus, it's a job to stay. And then their housing is the next need.
The transportation is a piece in there too, that figures in. I think we've talked about that, about people, getting jobs and getting connected to ways to get to those jobs.
Yeah, because that's been discussed. I mean, that there is, they want to use public transportation, but it's not offered during the hours that they seek employment, so they're not eligible to go or able to get employment because they can't get back up on campus. They might be able to get down there.
Yeah, I remember that reminded me, Bryce brought up examples. Like students that he was like, you should work at Springbrook, and it was transportation was the barrier specifically.
Address barriers to community connectivity, something like that.
I mean, because it really, like I said, getting at like ways to foster those connections is, I think important. But yeah, addressing the barriers, fostering those connections.
Well, I think that the SUNY plan, which I thought was actually quite useful, is that they talk about establishing collaboration between city organizations and universities. So they have this synthesis between the organizations within the city and then the university structure itself.
So seeking out maybe from the city's perspective what the college is already kind of determined that they want to do. And that's, there are resources there are resources here. How do they match up and begin to take advantage of those and make them more unified in the approach to problem solving or whatever issues that they may be addressing. There are untapped resources on both campuses. It's been the case for a while.
One of the things is about broadening opportunities for students, faculty, staff interactions that engender a sense of belonging and purpose.
There's also the engagement of the student population in city events planning and other productions, so that, again, they feel, as they should, like this is their home, and that the things that they do, that they accomplish, that make our city better, are things that make their lives better, and that winds up enhancing their investment and potential of their retention.
When fraternities and sororities come before the council to talk about their special use permit, they notice that each one of them hones in on how they help their neighbors. Yet, do we actually have any formalization of what that looks like? Is there programs out there
We do.
other than spring cleaning, right?
Into the streets, and
That's what volunteer boards do. Yeah,
Right.
that's but I think that's all them looking individually. It's all siloed, a lot of one-offs. So is there an opportunity to create a more formalized community network?
Yeah, there really is. I think that's one of the things that Bryce has taken on as a charge, is to try to develop a town, I forget what he's calling it, but basically it's a town gallant task force that looks for collaborative opportunities that become institutionalized. I've used the phrase a river that runs through. It doesn't have to be a torrent, but there has to be something always going on that that you can count on. That's, as I said, is institutionalized. We currently don't have that.
Is that part of the Senate program or the Senate strategic plan?
About the collaboration between,
Is that part of it?
that was sort of it's the major emphasis. I was gonna just mention about these two movies talk about housing. It's not even here, there's some like foundational. So the housing options are able to meet the needs of.
Yeah, the students, and Lynn and I both, I think, spend a reasonable time on campuses. And quite often a student graduates and they have not, either they're entrepreneurial or they haven't found that job yet that is the job that they have the degree for, but they want to be in on the other. And sometimes that means that they're working at $15 an hour someplace. And we'd like to hold on to that.
And we have residents who work at $15 an hour who can't, they just join the stream of residents.
Well, that's exactly.
$15 an hour.
Yes.
Because it's all designed for students.
But just relative to this campus community.
Well, no, that's part of it, right? Like the student housing, the proliferation of student housing makes it challenging for residents, which then those students become, who are at those income levels, to find quality housing. That's a problem.
So would we say in this particular case, postgraduate housing?
Yeah, I think.
I wouldn't. I think that's too common housing. Yeah. We had talked about balancing housing so that there's enough housing for the campus community, and then there is appropriate and adequate housing for residents who need it. And right now, that balance is way off.
Do you see that as one under campus and community?
I sure do, because I think that it's a direct result of the relationship that we create and that we partake in with the community at large.
Do you agree with that?
Thank you.
How do you want to meet the needs of the campus and community?
But are we not including Job Corps campus?
We are, I think we should be.
Because we've not.
Yeah, there's a reasonable percentage of Job Corps students that graduate every year that want to stay in the community, and they face the same issues.
Well, the city used to do a lot, and I don't know a lot about that, and I don't know a lot about what we do now, but I have heard, right, that the city has done a lot over the years with workforce development, with Job Corps. So like, what is where are we? What do we do with that?
I worked up there for 8 years, and I'm not so sure that that's a real thing. I think that there's always been work-based learning opportunities. There's always been opportunities to engage the trades, specifically cement mason, almost always, that'd be the priority. The drone program was one that, got themselves some beneficial engagement with the city as well. But I don't know, in my
The
line program, yeah, but a lot of those linemen are, they're finding their way outside of the altitude.
They're hiring every single one of them from here to South Carolina.
Exactly, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very successful.
Yeah, it really is truly successful. But relative to any kind of institutionalized workforce development program that the city had, I'm not aware of one with a Job Corps.
Well, I think, and too, like you had mentioned, Brian, like some, like, I don't want to use the phrase junior firefighter, but I can think of something. We go like something where you would get them into the department and do some training, and then.
So a high school program?
Yeah, so like, I feel like we have an opportunity to say, like, you're needed and you're wanted here, and here's how we can integrate it. It's mutually beneficial.
I think that's work-based learning up there. I think that's what they reference it as. Yeah. So, but I don't know that that's something that we utilize a lot.
I just want to clarify, I brought up SUNY because they just completed their strategic plan. So that was the purpose for sort of including that in the conversation. I think it is a good question about Job Corps. What are their needs in terms of
Communication has worked with them closely. And, the mayor is actually that people are wanting to stay here and work, and that there's just not, they're getting trained in these trades and are very employable, but they'll go unnamed. I have a friend who works in the plumbing industry, and they're self-employed here in the city. It was a very tough time making ends meet, and so to then employ somebody to come on to help them, even though they're very busy. But like if they took on an intern from Job Corps, from SUGA or whatever, like they would have like the support and they could expect so there is need out there. It is about how we put them together, how we make this all come together.
Electricians is another excellent.
I feel like we always have openings, right, with DPW for people with skills. So like, I don't know if there's a way to, similar to the high school program, where like you could take on interns from, some
So-
others.
so
Are
again,
you
I
able
just-
to take older than high school? I'm sorry. I apologize.
So, I just want to throw out there, for the last 7 years, my office takes 4 to 5 interns every semester, every year that works in our office.
DPW has like park interns sometimes.
So, these are SUNY and Harvard kids, but this circles back to one of your early goals. The kids in my office some of them are, they're not even going to school for anything related to what we do. They're like nurses, very employable here. They're like, I don't want to stay here because I don't like it here. Like the place itself is not a place I want to live in. So I think until you make a place that attracts people to stay, like typically the Harvard people we're getting are not, they're just doing clerical work. And they're nurses, and they could easily work here. They could stay here. They're choosing not to. So part of getting those people to stay here is more than just jobs and houses. It's making a place they actually want to stay in. Like we're losing our current intern because she's like, I'm moving all of it. You couldn't pay me to stay here. And that's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
But I am somebody who graduated from SUCO, and during my last semester, I opened a business and a team. It was hard as hell. We would talk about it, but I had to sit and figure out how to do a DBA, where do I file, how do I file my paper, all of these things I had to figure out myself. So maybe if we have ways to make these things more accessible to people when they are going to graduate, we can make the path to wanting to be here. Because moving back to New York City and looking at $4,000 rent is extreme. So it's
all incentivizing.
Right.
All of it is trying to incentivize people to living here and make this a better place to live.
Right.
Which kind of leads us into recruitment and retention.
Expanding on that, they don't want to live here because a number of reasons. We don't want them living here. We don't want low-income housing because we have 250 people stand up and say this. We don't want them living in our downtown. Well, a $15 an hour college student would be living in that mixed-use housing development. They don't want to live in a place where a number of business people are saying how shitty the city is. And it's who wants to come to their business if everyone's saying it's terrible to have their business here? There's an attitude problem here in the city.
And I think it extends to the college.
Exactly. Well, now they don't want to live here. It's negative.
Yeah, that was something that I wanted to talk about before we
It's
move on.
it's, you said kind up there. Kind, respect, there's times there isn't even any here in this room. Over and over and over. And, you get on Facebook, you get on social media, and anything that you post, you have these just horrendous comments about anything that we're doing. You have horrendous comments about anything or a lot of things that the businesses themselves are doing. And it's the city needs an attitude adjustment.
That's all cities and villages across the United States.
It's
You
really
can find
bad.
it
It's
everywhere.
really bad.
I know what you're saying, I
But
agree
we
with
have,
you. When I talk to the college kids up there, Judy, I'm just gonna tell you, and I agree with everything you said, I do. But one of the other things exactly what Steve said is when you talk to them is really talk to them, sit down, you say there's nothing for us to do here. Nobody's ever followed that up with, what are you looking for? We say, oh, there's plenty to do here. But we're looking at it, I'm looking through the eyes of a 47-year-old. I'm not looking through it at the eyes of a 20-year-old that just graduated. Well, what do you want? We never follow that conversation. And to your point, Judy, I think how we can change some of that attitude that I agree with you 100%. We need to sit there and look at the people when they're saying that and say, so what are we looking at? What do you want? To both sides, what do you want? Because we have to work as a cohesive unit. We're not doing it. I think we haven't done that. So I think 8 of us sitting here have not somehow got that motivation going to have that conversation. And I guess it's I'll take my lump. That's shame on me. That's probably when I'm an elected official, it's my job to do it, and I didn't do it. So I'm going to apologize to the city staff. I didn't step up and do my job of making sure that we have that conversation.
So I appreciate that, Scott. Actually, one of the things I think a lot of us would like to see is the folks that are mad or worse, provide us with proposals. What is it that you would like? And I know I've talked about this in council a few times, having been an employer of young people for years and years and years and not being able to retain them. One of the reasons that recruitment and retention has been so important to me is that I lost so many prime and just great young people because they got to the point where they had graduated. They were a year here, 2 years here. We're a small community to begin with, so it means it's difficult for them to find that person that they want to spend their life with. But also, it's just in their mind's eye, and I heard it repeated over and over and over again, there just wasn't anything for them to do here. They didn't want to hang out in a college bar. And our parks are lovely, and our hiking trails are great, and it's great to see a baseball game on Cape. But there just wasn't anything that spoke to them. One of the reasons that we talked about what we could do with Market Street And where that proposal came from, it came from my experience in talking to former students, graduates, former employees that left that couldn't return. What is it that you want? And they want someplace where they can, spend their time in a social atmosphere and not feel like they're in somebody else's bar, a kid's college student's bar. They want to feel like they're in a young adult's environment, and that's one of the things that we don't have here. And one of the things that we actually have a blank canvas, not to promote too much the agenda of it, but we have a blank canvas with Market Street. And frankly, we also have several opportunities in our downtown Main Street area where we've got, potential for new ideas that are connected to a younger demographic. You've heard me say it so many times. But anyway, shall we move on? No, go ahead.
So I just wanted to speak to what Judy was talking about, which is that, we're talking about how we're going to keep students here and we really appreciate them and celebrate them, and I think that's wonderful, but it takes two, right? And so I think that I want to talk about the attitude problem. I want to talk about the pain points that people in the community feel and how do we bridge that gap. And maybe we don't solve that today, but I think that needs to be like a key strategy, is improving relationships through any avenue possible between people in the community and people in the campus community, and making sure that everyone feels valued and respected and like neighbors. And we can leave it there, but we gotta get it on the board because it's really critical, I think, to solving some of our problems.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of the bus person.
100%.
And it's hard because we have a lot of people that have been here all their lives and they remember the past like it was yesterday. And it's hard to change.
But there are also people who are new, who are like, why is it like this? I have a really great couple in my neighborhood who bought a house to retire here. And, they knew they were moving to a college town, but they have concerns all the time about the expectations that we're setting or not setting, with regard to respect within the neighborhood, and they are not as enchanted with Atlanta as they were when we moved here. And so I think that there's work that can be done on both sides in terms of how we can be respectful neighbors and create connection. And actually, from a public safety standpoint, that's something that Chief Wittenberg mentioned in terms of creating strong communities, is knowing your neighbors, knowing who they are, knowing their needs, and and talking to them, saying hello when you see them outside. So we need a lot of work in that area.
I think if you don't mind my repeating the story I've told a couple of times a few years ago during the pandemic, we had a couple of opportunities to bring the college students downtown and work side by side with the business owners, building scarecrows, just little projects like that, big projects like that. And one of the things that came of that was that the store owners and the staff there got to know the students and working together on a project that was going to be for the community. And at the same time, the students got to know the store owners and their staff. You wound up with some, understanding. I actually used this a little bit earlier today, but understanding kind of led them to empathy, and that made a big difference to the chief. Will tell you that we had there was a drop off. There was a period of time where students downtown at 2 o'clock in the morning, as much as anything else, kept Ace Glass in business. And the broken windows, why would you break Betsy Cunningham's window? She's a nice lady, you were just working with her. So, that kind of connection, that kind of understanding breeds, and that kind of familiarity, breeds empathy. And that's, if we empathize with one another, we understand one another, it's so much easier to be, respectful and nice and good neighbors than if you're segmented, and you're up on the hill and we're down here and we don't like you and you don't like us. And that's kind of where my opinion, that's kind of, we know that works, We just have to kind of do it in some sort of an institutional way.
I just want to throw in, just because of something you said, just to add, some of the college students that do have access to do say that they are mostly overall concerned about the drug use and when they're going out at night, people that they're running into and their safety, that's their biggest issue.
And one of the things the chief has been talking about, and we've been working on the safe homes and neighborhoods piece, is this idea of situational awareness and knowing, when something is dangerous, when something is not, what you should do in this situation, what you shouldn't do, and who to call, and not, being confident in a situation makes a world of difference. When you're not confident, you're going to be scared, and and that's where a lot of students, a lot of younger people are, not even just students, a lot of younger people, and quite honestly, even older people are. They don't necessarily know if the thing that they're seeing is a danger to them, and there is a concern around drugs and mental illness and all kinds of things like that. And it's one of the things we really do need. We're trying to, but it really does need to be addressed in a way that makes a difference to people.
Well, to draw on Scott's point, that was initially what your observation was around the fact that this is a common problem in a lot of cities, small and large.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not unique in these emerging social problems. But I was actually going to ask if you started to say something earlier. I don't know if you but do you remember what you were?
I understand that it's everywhere, but we're here. We can work on it here. No matter what is happening elsewhere. And I think that we need to do it. We're doing so much for this community. There's so much investment going on just between the city and the programs that we've done and we're working on right now that are generating other private investment. There's so much possibility, and we need to get our folks here on board with how much we actually are helping them, how much we want to help them. They need to tell us. We have some businesses and business owners are meeting, and they have issues, but they don't bring it forward. They don't bring it to us. We can't solve everything. We don't know what they want. I'm a business owner. We own a farm. We created it from 2 cows. We have almost 300 cows now. It's all direct marketing. We've done it ourselves. You have to do a lot yourselves when you're in business. You can't rely on just the city. I've never called the town of Carlisle and said, I need you to do this. And, because your sales aren't high, you have to group together with farmers or doing what we do. And our businesses have to help themselves as much as we want to help them. We're limited in what we can do. But they really need to also focus on helping themselves. And starting with a little bit of a better attitude is a great place to start. And whatever we need to do to help with that, I think we should do.
And just I can just follow up on that. The amount of money that the city has granted and or loaned to city vendors and businesses, first-time homeowners, renting new house, it's in the millions. It's millions and millions of dollars that we have done to support the local businesses and homeowners and residents. So I am very, very impressed with how much money we have gone through our grant programs to help support the community. And I can give you data going back as many years as you want as far as how much money we have provided. And some of the business owners on Main Street have been recipients more than once. So the city, in my opinion, has strongly supported the community in all the different grant opportunities.
I think that we said something about this in the community inclusive part about communicating with the community, right, and transparency, something around that. Maybe it wasn't that section. Oh yeah, the part about thoughtfully informed, engagement, communication, transparency. and this would get more into those actionable items, but it just makes me think that, having more opportunities to engage, because I know on your campus that engagement here, the campus and community, we're talking specifically about improving relationships between the community and the campus, but it's not just the community and the campus, it's businesses in the city and citizens and, everybody. Because I think that there's a lot that we could be doing to inform. Like after going to the planning meeting down on Market Street that happened last week and hearing the number of people who said, nobody asked me, this isn't what I wanted, but knowing and saying that there's no plan that anybody's following, they're just doing what they want, but knowing how much planning and years of work has gone into creating that very situation, I think that there's more that, certainly that everybody else could be doing to learn, but there's probably more that we could now do to share that as well and make it more visible.
Did you write down when you mentioned about Stephen giving a presentation? Is there anywhere on that list as far as community education?
Yes.
Is that good?
Yeah.
That really is
Just real quick, we gotta do something, I don't know where you put this. We have to do something with the amount of misinformation and the fear that goes on. And I don't know how to battle that, because like I'm one person, I'm talking, and all of a sudden I talk, and all of a sudden well, you're the city, you're not gonna tell us the truth, when in fact we're actually, I got no reason to lie. I mean, short of do something real stupid, I'm here for another three years. So I don't know, how do we battle that? And it's not just that, it's, you hear how we get into that, well, we don't think that the city staff's being honest with us. And I'm like, that's farthest thing from the truth. I've never had an issue with any of the city staff. In fact, I gotta apologize to Judy in a minute because I cut her off. But, my thing is how do we we gotta come up with a way to combat that. Because a lot of what the 250 people up here were screaming at us about was misinformation until we really started diving down into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was fear mongering. That's media, but very little of it was factual based.
I feel
don't know what to do.
I feel like-
I'm sorry, I did cut you off. I apologize for that. That was not right. So.
I feel like you read my column today.
I think it's transparency and communication. And I think communicating. I faced a lot of similar kinds of things, with the work that I was doing at church. And, we found that if you write it, you say it, you announce it, and then you do it all over again. And you just keep communicating constantly, over-communicating. Because when we feel like we're over-communicating, the only pieces of those messages are going to get to certain people. Like somebody's going to read it, somebody's going to listen, somebody will watch a video, but you've got to cover all of those bases and be ultra transparent.
And then the second time someone hears it, they might be like, oh, that sounds familiar. So you guys know what I'm going to say. We have a hiring a public information officer in the comprehensive plan, strategic plan. It's in a plan. It's written down.
No,
It's written.
Comprehensive plan
For sure. As a goal for like 2 years ago or something. I don't know. It's passed and we haven't done it. And we circle the drain all the time on how we need to be more transparent and we need to have someone, or we need to be communicating more. But everyone is so busy, and if it comes from this department and that department, sometimes I know Carrie's doing a really awesome job moderating like 1 million city Facebook pages to try to unify that message. And Mark, you have been out there doing your best. But I think that if it was like someone's job to tell the story of the city and what's going on, and they were relatable and likable and consistent and focused on that it would improve the community situation and trust in the government by like leaps and bounds. And I know we can't afford it because every department needs people, but I think this is something that benefits every department. And also, not to throw our Renaissance coordinator under the bus, but we are paying that person like $25,000 for the better part of the year, and we totally could have paid somebody to focus on this as well. I just think we need to put our priorities where they matter. This is something that we've been talking about at least since I got on council 4.5 years ago, and I think it's time. So I would wonder if that's something that the council would support in the 2025 budget position, at least part-time.
Any question on my end?
Please.
Fundamental.
Oh,
Thanks.
I was like, what do you mean by that? Great,
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I would wholeheartedly support the addition of a full-time staff person who works on public relations for the city.
I don't think it's a phrase I've used sometimes, binary choice. I don't think, when we're talking about recruitment and retention, we're talking about the construction and expansion of assets and the promotion of those assets for recruitment. So as part of recruitment. So defending the Renaissance coordinator, really important job.
Oh, of course. I'm
But-
just saying we
But,
found
yeah,
funding for that.
so like I said,
I'm sure
not
we can-
necessarily a binary choice,
Right.
but I feel like if
Sorry, I
we
wasn't
are,
following.
yeah, so, but if we are looking at, if we're looking at recruitment and retention, it's changing the message as much as anything else, making sure that we are being as educational as we can be and being persistent about that education. To Elaine's point, you just have to say things over and over and over again. And there's none of us, myself included, that can do that over and over and over
Right,
again
right.
before you just say,
And I think
said this.
too, I know that it would involve an investment, but I think it's worthwhile to look at how that investment may pay off in the change of, additional time for staff and even council members. If there's a common way of getting out that accurate information, how they reinforce that.
So if we were talking about recruitment and retention, which is where we're at right now in terms of our key strategies, it may be being able to communicate in a back and forth with the community on a basis that's beyond what we're able to do right now with the staffing that we have. All of those things and addressing those misconceptions and nipping some of the issues in the bud before they become 45 minutes of petitioners who are upset about nothing.
I would suggest that, if you want to get more specific on that it's, informative and transparent communication. Because I think that also gets at, how do we get at getting rid of misinformation? I think the best way to do that is communicate information, correct information, and just keep doing it repeatedly as many times as needed.
And
It's going to be more than we think is needed, I think.
we need to learn from past dynamics where the community brought issues to us, or I don't even want to say us. Issues were brought, but they weren't responded to, or they were responded to in a structured, I'm trying to do this. They were responded to in a structured way that didn't actually answer their questions, and actually further instilled fears and disbelief that they were being lied to, and we weren't being transparent. And so, when we say transparency, it means that everybody has equal access to all of the information. There's no boundaries on it. We're not handing out no cards with no questions.
I'm sorry, I just have to say. But what we did at the Foothills, I thought was the staff, and what we did in that presentation, and the amount of education and information that we provided to the audience, and then we had several people in the audience accuse us of lecturing or, having that, it was almost like we were trying to teach them, and we became insulted because we were providing so much facts and information. That was the whole point of the presentation, was to inform them that even under that structure, it was still.
You do a phenomenal job. I'm not saying that it's not. But I still got followed to my car and yelled at from people who were angry because things weren't answered.
It's just how they expected.
So we answered hundreds of questions, and they would not have been answered if we didn't do the no card.
All of those questions are underlined with thorough answers. And the thing is, I'm sorry, Julie, I couldn't remember. The thing is that sometimes you can't answer a question on the spot because we need to go back and do research or gather more information. So we have to have a situation so it doesn't become a complaint session, but it becomes an education.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to put you in a position where you feel like that was going on. It was a beautiful presentation. I am well informed from it. I thought it was great. I'm just saying how it was received by some people and how I came back onto me as a council.
I think we got to that situation, and we get to that situation all the time in that council meetings where, you know, we talked about this, even the room is set up as though this is there's an audience, and it's not an engagement. This is where you come and you have 3 minutes, and the mayor holds the card up if you're running out of time to say something, and that's how you get your word in. And people wanted to go to a meeting like that, and they wanted to have more time to just, you know, share their feelings with whoever. And I think there needs to be more collaborative, smaller groups, you know, whether it's ward meetings or the task forces that are, you know, in existence now, and those, or these collaborative, you know, engagement has nothing to do with the city officials, maybe more so between campus and business owners and that kind of thing, where people have an opportunity to have a conversation and not just a one-way, like I think the two-way is, you know, communication should be two-way. Being redundant there makes sense because I think a lot of times it's just one way. They hear something from somebody and it's not coming from the city, then they come here to complain about that or share their differing opinion, and then they feel like they're not being listened to 3 minutes and sit down.
Or in the case of the Foothills presentation, that I think a lot of people felt as if it was one way. Because there was a lot of information, a lot of detailed information, so there wasn't a chance to really digest a lot of it. I was just going to add, if we could add something about public engagement. The public engagement has to be like a fundamental priority as a city.
Mm-hmm.
And that we really craft a thoughtful directive around what public engagement looks like.
And even just the opportunities of following, I had headed down to Florida almost directly after the presentation of the Foothills, and I was gone for a week and change. Family stuff. And when I came back, because it was clear that there were so many people who felt like they hadn't had an opportunity to really have that kind of conversation, I held 4 coffee sessions at 2 hours apiece. One actually lasted 4 hours, and then a 2-hour have a beer with the mayor, which lasted 4 hours. And generally speaking, it was the intention was to provide that opportunity for dialogue. Didn't really turn out that way. It was mostly I got yelled at, but it was still an opportunity for folks, and I think there's real value in that. We'll be having a discussion, a Q&A based discussion with folks in a couple, 3 weeks over at the Oak. We had done it at NAGS more than a few months ago. I think those intimate opportunities for questions, answers, and conversation are hugely helpful. They're not fun, but they really are hugely helpful. And I think it's something that we need to commit to. And just in terms of public engagement as a city, it's covered there in the second bullet, but just to kind of put a finer point on it.
I just want to throw this out. At the end of the day, everybody's got to remember, whether you're elected or working for the city, we're only human and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to misspeak. That whole thing at Foothills is, you took your lumps with it. You misphrased something. And that's kind of what sparked it. It's not, I'm glad you said you were sorry. I'm not trying to limit it. You took your lumps for that. And I tried to defend as much as I could on that, but you were just getting hammered so hard. But I just think at the end of the day, everybody's got to remember, everybody's human. We're going to speak. There's going to be emotions. There's going to be, we do it here at the council. We get worked up on something. I'm just guilty of it. I'll fire something out, not meaning it to come out the way that it does. And I think it's okay to set the example and say, hey, we're sorry, we just did this. And that's, I I'm just guilty, that's why I apologized to you a few minutes ago, I put it off. And I just think that maybe we can, I don't know how to set the example of, we're not really trying to hold anything back. This is probably one of the few councils that I see, everything comes out on out here, we're discussing it.
We also have one of the most, I like to think that these last couple of years have been actually very transparent. We have online, we have timelines for multiple things. We have if there's a question about anything, we post it, it's there. Again, all those various cards that got filled out, well over 90, maybe more than that, 100 and something. Each one got answered. They're still there, all those questions, all those answers. So, if there's a question that people have, we doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we're where we want to be. But this city is not me. It's this city government. We work hard, I think, to try to do our very best to be communicative. Doesn't mean we can't do more. But that is one of the things that is frustrating. Obviously, is when people accuse us of not being. We are human. We're doing our best. We'll continue to do our best. But in the meantime, so public engagement as a city, craft a thoughtful directive around what the engagement looks like. Is there relative to recruitment and retention? I had talked about how important I think it is that we are focused on the demographic that we want to recruit, and that we are addressing them in some, well thought out fashion. And when we have as many agencies as we have, where there's no succession strategy because people have aged out, it's important that I don't think it's ageist or anything else. The oldest person here, but I don't think it's ageist to say that we need to be looking at, and we are, the recruitment of, the retention of students and the recruitment of a younger demographic, and so that's, I think, from my perspective, one of the things we might want to add to this.
I agree. We haven't mentioned families and how we support families at all.
Right. And if you think about that, that includes childcare. That includes things for young families to do. There's a point in time where kids are in school and they're not in school, and people are trying to work, and all of this stuff is those are make or break relative to somebody wanting to move or stay in your area.
Absolutely. Especially if you're moving away from familial support systems.
Yeah.
If you are looking at them in the first place.
Under recruitment and retention, I know we're also talking about the city as a whole when we're discussing this, is like the cities that we close and branch out. I kind of brought this up at that meeting where, since we hire these people, we say yes. I don't know half the people we hire. I probably don't even get quarters of the ones that hire and just say yes. So I wonder if one of the recruitment retention would help if we go out and visit these places. I know Brian said absolutely when I asked him that day. I just think we have to put that in there. We have to try to somehow go out and meet these people, have to hire them. To me, that always meant a lot when every time I got hired in this municipality, and you look at the officials right there to welcome me. I think it goes to changing perceptions. We want to be something that a lot of other municipalities don't have. That's one of the different. We want to be all encompassing, try to do the best we can. I guess is what I'm saying.
We're a small enough city that that's manageable.
Let's keep going back to the water thing. That was the most engaging thing that in a long time we really had.
Totally agree.
And I like to have that opportunity, I like to do it with DPW and walk down through the roads crew. I see the water crew now, the water main breaks, I feel bad for that. But I mean, just have that, where we can do that and see what. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what Jimmy's office really does, really push numbers. I'll be honest with you. I don't even. So I just think that, you know, like, on the surface, you know, Steve with zoning would say, I don't know what role interactions I have, but I really don't know code-wise what they do day in, day out. You know? Look at garbage. Hey, you can take a picture, I'll move garbage up on the back of the pickup truck with you guys. I just think that kind of engagement would be it.
What else do we want to add to this?
I think you have to include, and I guess this is related to number 3, something about the centrality of economic development to the downtown in particular. For retention.
You need to have a level.
A resident said to me that, you know, the concern has always been how, you know, in recent decades, how do we keep students graduating here? And this resident said, you know, they just want to have fun. And it really sort of comes down to that. You know, just providing spaces where people use cities now as kind of, I don't want to say play areas, but something along those
Like a
lines.
backyard.
Entertainment spaces. Yeah, and it's, you know, for better or for worse. And so I think providing economic development that focuses on the retention of certain population, focus on. Yeah.
We want to provide an option for those that would, it's the weekend, where are we going?
Yeah.
It's hard about counties, you know, follow county, but aside from that, we can do more.
What else?
What about promoting what we got? Would that do anything to create attention?
It should be, yeah, I think that's an actionable item.
We're
That's
on
my
to something.
sense of it.
Yeah, you know what I want to suggest too for number 4, just edit on making it the retention of diverse populations. Because we did mention specific populations, you know, like young adults and everything, but I think, you know, there's, you know,
Can I suggest something along those lines? Engage students and young adults of diverse backgrounds to identify and implement economic development initiatives to encourage students to make money out of their home after graduation. It's a little, because if you're able to recruit a student or a young adult to live here, then they live here and then they have families.
Well, it just has to feel like home to them, you know, and it really does. That's the key. If it feels like this is their home, it's hard to leave.
and I saw that that is their ad campaign now. They have a billboard up on the highway, and it says some call it Studio Leonta and some call it home.
Yep.
So I think that fits right in.
It's from the first day that was Alberto's thing, we're not in Oneonta, we're all of Oneonta. Anything else that we want to add to this? Greg, where do we go from here?
I think individually, council members as well as staff, we'll have a discussion to review everything we came up with today, as well as the definitions that we drafted here. I think we should come back with some suggestions for.
Are you going to do the department heads our suggestions as we read, and we're going to do this, or is it going to be separate, and then we come back?
Like, wait a minute.
I think from the staff perspective, we'll have a meeting and we'll go through and come up with things and come back with some suggestions in the next meeting. Share them ahead of the next meeting, whenever that may be. Maybe the council can do the same individually. I know we don't want to have like council discussions and emails, but.
Do you have this digitally?
So will you provide what you're document?
That's not strategy.
Dated and saved with today's edits.
Yes. I know when I talked about those, like, wordsmithing these definitions too, right?
Yes.
There's no support for this spelling and
You could send it to
You
me
can
first,
always-
I'll mark it up with a red pen.
Do you use Google?
Participation is 90%.
No, we don't use any share.
That's nice.
Email.
That would be handy.
Yeah.
You don't have a shared document system, no, so, okay, all right, we'll deal with coloring it or something. Okay.
Are we finished?
Well, that's the question. Have we anything else more for council discussion?
When are we discussing again?
We do apparently have something else for discussion when we discuss it again. So we had targeted getting this done by mid-July. We had talked about that so that we would move into the budget process with something that's fully formed. The next council meeting is the 16th. The following week is the 23rd. I don't know what we have. Nothing.
Just another FYI, we are getting into the budget process, so what we were going to talk about next Tuesday at the council meeting was coming up with our schedule for our first initial budget discussion. I think that's probably best done separate from a regular council meeting.
Yes.
Maybe that and this can be combined into an hour or something like that.
Finish this up and.
But that might be ambitious.
Well, it may, but you know what, to Elaine's point with that hour, if we know that we're plowing through something that's gonna take multiple weeks, and we assign ourselves, obviously we're at 2 hours and 20 minutes here, but if we assign ourselves an expectation of an hour or 2 hours or whatever it might be, I think that's reasonable. I think most people agree.
Can it be not on a Tuesday night?
So we were going to suggest July 30th, which would be 2 weeks after council, for our first real budget discussion. It will be informative as far as tax levy history, sales tax history, tax cap, formula, and assessment value tax limit. That all of the big items to start the discussion. So, but Katie, that's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that Wednesday is also wide open.
31st.
I'll just
So
make that whole.
So the 31st you're saying is what it is?
31st is wide open.
I can't.
Yeah, I'm away on vacation that whole week, but
The 18th is a Thursday, it's wide open.
the 18th of July is very soon.
What about the next week after that, the week of the 22nd?
The 23rd is wide open. There are meetings every other night.
That's Tuesday. Yeah.
Well, just let me see, because if
That Thursday, the 25th, Commission on Community Relations and Human Rights, we can move that into the mayor's conference room.
But
I know I'm not here.
Done.
I guess we're gonna go.
Just your.
I could do the 23rd.
We can also send out a poll with a few dates to the whole
We
council.
could also do the 25th.
Given the fact we're electing three, yeah, maybe that's the thing to do.
I think we should have ideally all 8 council members at the budget discussion, especially, I don't want to do it a week when Elaine's not here.
Right.
The first time.
Now, Ginny, understanding this is going to be a pretty comprehensive first meeting relative to the budget. Is it reasonable to think that we might have 45 minutes to an hour to kind of wrap this up before we move into that
You
evening?
want to do it first?
Yes, we would do this first, yes. We do your stuff second, is what I'm saying. So that seems like it might be reasonable, yes.
Is there anything council can do, or look at, or read, or learn to prepare for the budget discussion?
It's going to depend on how fast I can produce it. I'm still in the depths of the audit, so
Are there any external resources? Are there any external resources that you would recommend? Like looking at this year's budget?
Well, I believe
That's still an internal source.
I believe I provided all of the new council members I gave you the detail.
Yeah, I think you, and I know Greg gave me a whole bunch too, so I'm still going through it all, but I have it.
Yeah, and I think I also provided in the council members one of my budget memos from 2024 budget. So refreshing on those, because those are just facts, and those facts will change. And, refreshing on that.
All right, so we're gonna do a poll, and we'll determine based on the poll of all 8 council members when we're gonna be able to pull everybody together. We'll have the wrap up on the strategic plan preceding your more full-blown intro to the budget.
And remember, it's going to be a lot of information, so we don't want to make my section too terribly long, because people are going to be trying to absorb what I'm going to do.
So that's why it's like the initial, kind of let it all
Yeah.
sink in, we'll think about it, and then we,
All right, so we're gonna do a poll.